Cybersecurity. Unit 5. Security Policies. Learning Outcomes. By the end of this unit, the learner will be able to contribute to effective cybersecurity policies in an organizational setting. Identify those responsible for managing and enforcing security policies. Understand every key element of the effective security policy. Security policies. A free and open internet is at the heart of the new cybersecurity strategy by the European Union and the European Commission. The new communication is the first comprehensive policy document that the European Union has produced in this area. It comprises internal market, justice and home affairs and the foreign policy aspects of cyberspace issues. ENISA has listed all the documents of national cybersecurity strategies in the European Union but also in the world. Policies. The policies that are implemented should control who has access to which areas of the network and how unauthorized users are going to be prevented from entering restricted areas. Written policies as basic as to warn employees against posting their passwords in work areas can often preempt security breaches. Customers or suppliers with access to certain parts of the network must be adequately regulated by the policies as well. Training. Policies and training can limit the risk. Cybersecurity is a term that has come to encompass a range of concepts including the practice protecting an organization's information, networks, computer, and resources against attacks from security attacks. The term is also used by institutions and government agencies to refer to the act of protecting assets, infrastructure, and people against computer attacks. The purpose of training provides assurance that a certified individual has the knowledge and skills necessary for a practitioner in key areas of computer, information, and software security. Training people to adopt security-conscious behaviors and establishing policies for maintaining a secure environment go a long way toward improving an organization's overall security posture. The next two sections cover the people and policy dimensions of cybersecurity. Cybersecurity policy. The corporate security policy expresses the management's commitment to securing critical assets and provides the framework for developing, implementing, and enforcing security controls. The policy document must be available to all personnel who are required to comply with its requirements. Review and update the policy periodically. Responsibilities. Everyone in the organization has a role in maintaining security. Define and document the roles and responsibilities of at least the following. The governing body for the security policy, for example, an oversight board comprising representatives of stakeholder groups or engineering, legal, IT, etc. A designated information security manager who maintains the policy and provides guidance for implementation and enforcement. Department managers who own the critical cyber assets and are responsible for implementing the security policies and procedures to protect those assets. Personnel with authorized access to critical assets who must review, provide feedback on, and comply with security policies. Implementation. Implementation and enforcement of security policies and procedures require defined processes to disseminate them effectively. Ensure that they are understood and are available at all times. And enforce compliance, or, for example, through audits and disciplinary actions for non-compliance. Exceptions. Policy exceptions occur for a variety of reasons. Simple examples include an overriding business need, a delay in vendor deliverables, new regulatory or statutory requirements, and temporary configuration issues. The exception process must ensure these circumstances are addressed in a manner that makes all stakeholders aware of the event, the risks, and the timeline for eliminating the exception. Personnel and training. Insufficiently trained personnel are often the weakest security link in the organization's security perimeter and are the target of social engineering attacks. It is therefore crucial to provide adequate security awareness training to all new hires, as well as refresher training to current employees on a yearly basis. The following checklist summarizes the various security best practices and controls that you should consider implementing. Training. The organization must establish, document, implement, and maintain a security awareness program for all personnel. The awareness program describes common security risks and how to avoid them. Awareness reinforcement should occur at least quarterly. Diligence. Diligence in the hiring and personnel review process is crucial. It is important to define and document a risk assessment program for personnel with authorized cyber access or authorized unescorted physical access to critical cyber assets. The program must comply with applicable laws and existing collective bargaining agreements. Access. Grant each employee the lowest levels of access to cyber assets and other privileges needed to do his or her job efficiently. Maintain a list of all personnel who have authorized cyber access or authorized unescorted physical access to critical cyber assets. This list must include each person's specific electronic and physical access rights to such assets. Review the list quarterly and update it within 7 days of any change in a list member's access rights. Operational risks. The following checklist summarizes the various security best practices and controls that you should consider implementing. For more details on any of the activities or security controls, please refer to the descriptions following the checklist in the body of the section. Contingency planning. A contingency is any unplanned outage or failure of a system component. A disaster recovery plan applies to major, usually physical disruptions to service that deny access to the primary facility infrastructure for an extended period. A business continuity plan focuses on sustaining an organization's mission or business functions during and after a disruption. A business continuity plan may be written for mission or business functions within a single business unit or may address the entire organization's processes. Continuity and recovery plans define interim measures that increase the speed with which organizations resume service after disruptions. These plans must be tailored to each system. Plan and protection. Senior managers must document, implement, and maintain a physical security plan. Monitoring, logging, and retention. The organization must document and implement the technical and procedural controls for monitoring physical access at all access points at all times. Logging will be sufficient to uniquely identify individuals and the time of access. Physical access logs should be retained for at least 90 calendar days. Maintenance and testing. Each physical security system must be tested at least once every 3 years to ensure it operates correctly. Testing and maintenance records must be maintained at least until the next testing cycle. Outage records must be retained for at least 1 calendar year. Addressing technology risks. Information technology, IT, is at the heart of the smart grid. As its spreading use helps the smart grid achieve higher operational efficiencies, it also makes the electrical grid more vulnerable to cybersecurity attacks. It is therefore important to ensure that the way in which IT is used does not inadvertently provide new avenues of attack to an adversary. Network connection control. Restrict user-assigned devices to specific network segments. Devices should be authorized for connection to one network segment, but should not be authorized to connect to other network segments. User devices should be specifically prohibited from cross-connecting, for example, acting as a router between any 2 networks. Firewall. Your organization's firewall should be configured in accordance with the firewall configuration standard and the policy elements below. Firewalls and other boundary security mechanisms that filter or act as a proxy for traffic from one network segment to another of a different security level should default to a deny all status. Firewalls should be configured to deny any of the following traffic types. Invalid source or destination address. For example, broadcast addresses, RFC 1918 address spaces on interfaces connected to public networks. Addresses not assigned by INA on interfaces connected to public networks. Those destined for the firewall itself unless the firewall provides a specific service, for example, application proxy, VPN. Source routing information. Directed broadcasts that are not for the subnet of the originator. These can be used to create broadcast storms in denial of service attacks against third parties. Those destined for internal addresses or services that have not been approved for access from external sources. Requests for allowing additional services through a firewall or other boundary protection mechanisms should be approved by the Information Security Manager. Flow of electronic communications. The flow of electronic communication should be controlled. Client systems should communicate with internal servers. These internal servers should not communicate directly with external systems but should use an intermediate system in your organization's DMZ. The flow of traffic should be enforced through boundary protection mechanisms. Protecting data in transit. When any non-public classified data transits a network, and the confidentiality and integrity of the data cannot be guaranteed, because of the use of protocols which do not provide a mechanism for protecting the data payload. Encryption should be used to guard against disclosure and modification of the data. Protecting DNS traffic. The domain name service, DNS, should be deployed in a multi-tier architecture that protects internal systems from direct manipulation. Internal client resolvers should direct their queries to internal DNS servers, which forward all queries for external resource records to DNS server S in a DMZ. Summary. Having completed this unit, you have learned the following. How important it is for an organization to create, implement, revisit and optimize cybersecurity policies to ensure its protection. That providing the workforce with access to training and development opportunities holds the key to optimum cybersecurity. The extent to which contingency planning and disaster recovery planning can help ensure continuity in any eventuality.